Hi friends, good morning and good afternoon. This is Shamir Galsurkar. I welcome everybody for our 15th lesson today. It is one of the most, I would say, interesting lessons because we get to learn so many beautiful things what this wisdom has to offer. Today's lesson discusses a lot about different desires in our reality. It talks about all the desires, how our universe and our reality came into being. It talks about the different desires which exist internally and how humanity,
of going
and not
and
only humanity, but
understanding
all of
what
the
is
degrees of
truly the
reality,
purpose of our
how
creation.
they are advancing towards this goal, towards this attainment, this final attainment, somewhat you can say. So let's try to feel this lesson today, friends. Let's enter this lesson with a very beautiful intention and try to really scrutinize and open ourselves to this beautiful wisdom that we have. So let's before we go ahead, let's start to delve into this lesson by looking at this pyramid. You can say pyramid or graph, whatever, and you can see that there is 5 stages of our reality. The first stage is the still stage. This still stage is the stage where a person, uh, because first of all, friends, we need to understand that we are also talking about corporeality and also about spirituality. So let's start with the corporeal reality of ours. We know that the still state includes all the stones, the planets around us, and all of it, all of our reality is connected with the will to receive. We need to understand that the will to receive exists in every degree, in every being, in every non being elements of our reality. So the still state also has the will to receive, but the will to receive is extremely small. And that's why you can also see that it's the universe is vast, that the planets and stones, all of it is still. It's all of it is always expanding and it's always on a still level. After that, we go towards the vegetative state of reality, which is, of course, the plants, the trees, and for example, one plant has more will to receive even when you gather all of the still states. Even if you gather all of the still states together, still one plant has a bigger will to receive, because that's the next degree of our reality, the vegetative state. And the vegetative state has a bigger will to receive. It has an environment, it grows and it dies. And then we go slowly towards the animate state. This animate state actually has a certain sense of independence, you can say. An animal can walk freely, can go wherever it wants, do things what it likes. And this animate state, if you take, for example, even a fly or a little cat, it if you combine all the will to receive of the whole vegetative state, still one fly will have a bigger will to receive than all of the vegetative state of one cat, whatever. Because this is the next state of development of reality. And eventually, when we go towards the speaking state, which is the human state, we understand that it has a bigger will to receive. And this big will to receive has desires to grow, has concern for the world, has constant thoughts about this reality, has different desires, has the power to build societies, to destroy societies. And you can see that this human level, this speaking has the even if you take one human, is if you take all of the still, vegetative and animate, and you combine all of their will to receive, still the ego or the will to receive of a human is much more bigger. That's how our reality is. And then eventually, when the human eventually attains and comes towards the highest attainment of his will to receive, which is eventually to come to will to bestow, he comes towards the spiritual state. When I say he, I mean all of reality, man, woman, everybody, all the 8 billion people. So when all these people come towards their eventual, their their end state of having the highest will to receive and going towards the will to bestow, at that moment they attain the spiritual state of the reality. So basically, friends, this is how our reality is built. This is how Kabbalists have been teaching us that this is how reality is built. There is also, at the same time, internal states and internal desires. There is developments also in the internal states. So let's try to learn also about those states. So just to don't get scared by looking at this diagram. It's very easy diagram. Just to explain it in short, uh, the first is the 10 Sephiroth. The 10 Sephiroth is basically all of the upper reality. And when a person, according to the wisdom of Kabbalah, connects to his group, which is his 10 Sephiroth, his spiritual part, when he connects with this 10 Sephiroth or his group, he eventually becomes one with the Creator. And the souls, you can say, let's start also before we go to the souls part, let's go towards the third part, which is the environment. You can, all of this is from the books of Torah, angels and robes and palaces. All of these words have spiritual roots. These are all internal desires which are growing slowly, slowly towards its development. It starts from palaces, from robes to angels, and then eventually to souls. Because just how we saw that there is still and vegetative and animate and speaking. The same way in spirituality, there is different internal desires and degrees of desires, palaces, robes, angels, souls. So as we discussed, the souls part is the, of course, the human level, but we are not talking about just being a human being. We are dealing here with much more than just being a human. We are dealing here to attain to be a spiritual human, because definition of being a human in spirituality is different. A person can be human but still be an animal, and that's what we need to understand the difference. A human, according to the wisdom of Kabbalah, is a person who invests and works towards the will to bestow, towards the being one with the upper force, being one with the creator, Adam. This is the literal meaning in Hebrew, human. So eventually, when the human is starting to develop, he's eventually becoming one with the upper force. So, friends, this is the whole of this system, which is made according to the desire, of course, the desire of the Creator's will. And this is how it has been made only because the Creator wants us to connect to Him. The Creator wants us to reveal, because we feel that we are not connected to the upper one, but we need to understand that we always are connected to the upper one. But what is missing is we ourselves to connect to this upper force. And the creator likes it, he likes it, he loves it when we are connecting to him, when we are trying to reveal him through love between us, when we are loving each other, when we are connecting between us, we are awakening the creator. So let's go ahead, friends, and read an article by Bal Salam, which talks exactly about what we are discussing. And let's have a very special intention before we read this article, for us to truly feel our internal desires, our development of our internal desires, to help us to connect to the upper force. Still, still is something that does not have any authority of its own. Rather, it is under the authority of its landlord and must satisfy every wish and desire of its landlord. So you can see, friends, that the still level which we discussed about, at that moment, a person, you can see the whole world today. We are all slaves of our ego. We are all living. We are in total control of this system. We have no free will. We have no free choice. We have no, our desires are totally egoistic, and nothing can really influence us, because we are in a still level where most of the world you will see today outside, that they have no sensation about going above their will to receive, or above their ego, or above their normal perception. And that's the still level. Let's continue. So Balasalam continues. Hence, when the Creator created creation for His glory, as it is written, everyone that is called by my name, and whom I have created for my glory, it means that He created creation for His own needs. The nature of the landlord is imprinted in the creatures, meaning all the creatures cannot work for another but for themselves. That means that all the creation that we see around us only work for themselves. This is what it is trying to talk about, that everybody in this reality know only according to our nature to care about ourselves. Let's continue what Balasalam is trying to bring us towards. So, we are now reading about the next state, which is the vegetative state. Vegetative is that which already has its own authority to some extent. It can do something that is contrary to the opinion of the landlord, meaning it can already do things not for itself but to bestow. This is already the opposite of what exists in the will of the landlord, which he had imprinted in the lower ones to work only with the will to receive for themselves. Yet we can see in corporeal flora, even though they are mobile and expand in width and length, still all the plants have a single property. In other words, there is not a single plant that can go against the method of all the plants, but they must adhere to the rules of the flora and are incapable of doing anything against the mind of their contemporaries. Thus, they have no life of their own, but are parts of the life of all floras, meaning all the plants have a single form of life for all the plants. All the plants are like a single creature, and the plants are specific organs of that animal or creature. So basically, friends, we can see that the vegetative state, it's trying to explain that a person is already starting to work against the law of the landlord, but at the same time, a plant is a plant. It has all of his plants around it. He is dependent. The plant is dependent on the others, and the others are dependent on the plants. We need to understand that plants are still very limited because they, in the end of the day, are plants. And at the same time, we need to understand also that up to some extent the plants are working against the will of the landlord. That means it's already working towards the will to bestow. When a person stops to starts to understand that okay, there is a will to receive and he wants to come out of this will to receive, this already is a sign that he's working towards going towards the will to bestow, because there is always only two forces in reality. There is will to be receive and there is will to bestow. And not only this, both of these forces are in the creator's plan, and we will read about this more. Similarly, in spirituality, there are people that have already acquired the force to overcome their will to receive to some degree, but are confined to the environment. They cannot do the opposite of the environment they live in, yet they do the opposite of what their will to receive wants. This means that they already work with the will to bestow. That means that a plant, that even if the plant is awakened and is working, but still because of the environment of his other plants, he cannot come out of it totally, only up to a certain extent. But at the same time, when the person is working to come out to be opposite from the will to receive, that person is already has started the work to go towards the will to bestow. Animate. We see that each animal has its own characteristic. They are not confined to the environment, but each of them has its own sensation and characteristic that can certainly operate against the will of the landlord, meaning they can work in bestowal and are also not confined to the environment, but their own life. Their vitality does not depend on their friend's life. Yet they cannot feel more than their own being. In other words, they have no sensation of the other and naturally cannot care for the other. So basically, we can see that the animals or the animate state have freedom to do whatever they like, their own being. They care only about their own being for their own survival. And of course, this is an animalistic characteristic, and because of which The animals are already working against the will of the landlord, but in the end of the day, they have no sensation of the other or care for the other. But because they are a very individualistic being, because they are only concerned about their own survival. And this is the quality which of course is within us, and we need to understand that there, yes, we also are individualistic and we care only about ourselves. And this is how the animal state is, and the animals in corporeality, and at the same time in our internal spiritual desire. Bala Salam eventually describes about the speaking level. Speaking has virtues. One, it acts against the will of the landlord. Second, it is not confined to its contemporaries like the vegetative, meaning it is independent from society. And three, it also feels the other and hence can care for them and complement them by feeling and regretting with the collective. So, friends, you can see that Salam is explaining to us that in the human level, a person eventually understands that he has the qualities of all of them, also the still, also the vegetative, also the animate, and also the human. Person also has individualistic qualities, also has still qualities, also has vegetative qualities, going through all of this development. But also a human has the quality to care for the others, to care for the world, to feel the suffering of the reality. And this is exactly what the wisdom of Kabbalah is dealing with, that we as humans, we all need to unite. We all need to unite into one spiritual mutual force, and to really legalot in Hebrew, which means to reveal the Creator in this unity. That is all the purpose of the wisdom of Kabbalah, and all of the purpose of our development of internal desire, starting from still to until the speaking and the spiritual level. That we all humans have to eventually unite and to truly build this spiritual force, and through our unity in our this specific group itself, through our unity we will truly awaken all of reality, all of the world. So the whole work which needs to be done is right here inside in the heart, because the human has the heart and the mind, and we all need to always put a constant effort to go towards the will to bestow. And that is only possible when, as we discussed in our previous lessons, when we have the right tools to study the wisdom of Kabbalah, when we have the books to guide us, to teach us what needs to be studied to advance in spirituality, a right teacher who can help us to and guide us to go right which direction to go through, and the most important of all is the group. In the group, you reveal the creator. In the group, you reveal yourself. In the group, you connect between you all. In the group, you unite. And in the group, you go towards the end of correction. There is no other way. This is how it is. This is how we are. We as human beings have this force between us. It's only between us. It's not inside me, it's not inside you, but it is between you and me. And when we balance these forces between the will to receive and the will to bestow and bring the middle line, and in that moment, we truly bring the Creator between us, between love and hate, between evil and good, between all whatever you say, there is so much of correction which we need to go through, but the correction always needs to be done inside the group, not individually, not on my own, not alone, only with the group, because the group will help a person and the person will help the group. It's a mutual spiritual work, because my correction is not done when I'm concerned about myself or my corrections, but when I'm concerned about others' correction, when I'm helping others to come closer to God, and that way I am coming closer to God. When I am helping others to complete their correction, praying for them, when I'm praying for others' corrections, in that I am completing my correction, because my correction doesn't lie here. Right here, this body or this person is an egoistic person, but the others is where the true person lies, a true Shamir, or true any of you all, all of us, because the others is where the true I is, where the true we is. So I really hope that we learned something special today, friends, and see you all next week. uh, and have a great day, friends. Please follow our Facebook page, our YouTube page, Instagram page. We have tons of content. Any questions that you have everything ready, friends. So please follow us, and see you all next week. Thank you so much, friends.